Gaming is great, but even the largest and deepest games begin to wear out their welcome after a couple dozen hours, or in some cases, a couple hundred hours. So what if I told you that there's a way to squeeze more life out of thousands of PC games? Even better, what if I told you this costs you nothing other than a decent internet connection and a little bit of patience?
Yes, we're talking about mods. Modding has been a mainstay of PC gaming since the early days, and it doesn't just end with Thomas the Tank Engine dragons or Doom hentai waifus, although those are the logical endpoints. Entire retail games are being developed on the ancient GZ Doom engine as we speak. While some game companies have taken advantage of this fan-driven talent pool by relying on mod communities as a way to fix their broken or half-finished products, overall, this tends to be the exception rather than the rule.
Imagine our delight when we found out that one of our favorite games of the year, Baldur's Gate 3, has an absolutely thriving mod scene, with thousands of entries on Nexus just sitting there, free for the taking.
Glistening in the dozens. We went through page after page of offerings from this ancient tome, brushing past the ever-present mods that just add bigger, titties to Shadowheart or replace the game's villains with Harry Potter characters. What we found was a spread of mods that expand the game far beyond its original scope, even going so far as adding in tons of lore-friendly character types and spells ripped straight from D&D rulebooks.
This brings us to our video today. Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing on its own, but one thing in particular that really stood out was the quality and quantity of its goblins. Just look at these little guys, they're awesome. And even the lowliest of the low has their own little personality quirks and sound bites.
Tribe!
So we decided to explore the depths of BG3 modding in order to see if we could jump into the boots of a couple elite goblin commandos, infiltrate the Absolute's forces, free our brothers and sisters, and stage a coup. With this fearsome force behind us, we'd rampage all over the grove and claim the wilderness as our own sovereign goblin state. Vive la resistance! Real quick, we want to say welcome to all the new subscribers out there that found our little channel after the Starfield and Baldur's Gate 3 reviews. The response has been truly humbling. As a way of saying thanks, we've decided to make something that you might actually be able to use in your own adventures. Near the end of the video, we've included a quick start guide with step-by-step instructions that will show you how to modify your own game. If you're just here for the guide, you can skip ahead to that chapter if you want. But please don't. Watch our video, we're funny.
We try. As always, if you want to support our channel by joining the Heroes Table, get your name in the credits, and hang out with us a bit on Discord, we'll show you some ways you can help us keep these videos rolling out a little bit later.
Alright, let's get into the mod mentality with Baldur's Gate 3 and see how far our little goblin commandos can take us. My name is Boss Sauce.
And I'm Roland Kunz. And together, we are the Two-Headed Hero. Once we had all our mods messily crammed into the game files, it was time to lay down a couple ground rules. Firstly, no companions. Pets are okay, and if someone joins our side in a fight, we can't do much about that, but this club has an exclusive goblins-only policy.
Second, no healing magic. Goblins ain't got time to bleed.
Finally, no revival magic, and no skeleton man resurrections. A dead goblin is a dead goblin.
Is a dead goblin.
Is a dead goblin.
Now keep in mind that modding is rarely a 100% flawless experience. Some bugs are to be expected, and we ran across a few hilarious visual anomalies and gameplay glitches during our travels. But at the end of it all, can you really take a look at this and say it wasn't worth the effort? As with any Baldur's Gate 3 game, our tale begins in the bowels of the Nautiloid. Guzzler Glizbog, a hard-drinking goblin commando with a luxurious head of long, flowing locks, simply cannot be contained by the pod that constrains him. Fortunately, he's in good company. Gumslappa, his longtime compadre in crime and goblin of many talents, wakes up in the same chamber.
I can't tell you how many times I've begun an adventure waking up in some bowels.
Just another bowel adventure for you then.
A Bowel-Awakening adventure begins. Gumslappa is an interesting character, cursed to a life of selected amnesia because of an odd accident involving his left ear and a pair of magic floating earrings, but he's ready to redouble his efforts in the goblin liberation cause. Our heroes waste no time scouring the damaged squid ship for trinkets and busting a brain out of its bony prison. Even interference from a flying woman and a host of wee demons can't slow them down. Leaping Lizard Lady joins us despite our very best efforts to refuse, and the little group slices their way towards the helm.
The next room has even more people pods and some cool buttons to push. Glizbog decides to make a point by showing off how strong he is, and a grumpy lady falls out of one of the pods. Job well done. Ducking inside the helm room, we see a bunch of octopus guys having a royal rumble with a variety pack of devils. One of the devils has a big awesome fiery sword, so we snatch it off his dead body and bail before things get bad.
Things do get bad. During the long fall to the sandy beach below, we have a little time to reflect on the quality of our life decisions up to this point. Good. They've been great.
Yep, good job.
We spot a bunch of our goblin buddies in the distance, probably on their way to save us. Too bad we're going to be a green schmear on the ground in several seconds. But wait, due to the last-minute intervention of a weird purple haze, our heroes live to fight another day.
After waking up from a little beach nap, the green guys shake the sand out of their underpants and start off on their goblin liberation mission. Gumslappa trips over a sleepy elf, the same grumpy pod lady, and tries to take her tantalizing Christmas ornament, but she wakes up and asks to come with us instead. No, we'll stick to looting, thank you. As we survey the wreckage, Glizbog gets caught up in a vampire wrestling match, gives a high five to a wandering hand, and stamps out one of the last Lovecraftian survivors of the crash. But then, our ragtag commandos ran into real trouble.
Looks like those goblins we saw on the way down weren't here to rescue us. They were making a mess. Rather than compromise the mission, we leave them to their mess making and sneak on by. Down the road, some nervous-looking cultists block the path. They decide to take a swing at Gumslappa. A fatal mistake. But at least they spill their guts about the big goblin camp at the cathedral before literally spilling their guts about the ground.
On the way to this promised land, Gumslappa stumbles upon a secret cave with goblin tracks leading into it. Being loot goblins ourselves, we step inside and search for treasure, braving ancient traps and teaching a lesson to a few of our uncooperative cousins. We also find out what these guys were after. A druid. Druids just turn into a fish when you toss them into water, right? Glizbog decides to see if the legends were true and, well, myth busted.
At the end of the cave, we find the real treasure, the gift of friendship. Gumslappa finds the charming and beautiful Saza all locked up in a rusty cage.
And hang you by your guts.
And he lets her out. Could this be true love? Are wedding bells in the works for this handsome couple? The Goblin Commandos rescue Gumslappa's new girlfriend, and she runs ahead to put in a good word for us at the Goblin Camp.
Unfortunately, the Goblin Camp is way over there on the other side of the map. Any revolution needs a bunch of weapons and supplies to keep it going, and navigating the dangers of the woodlands with only 2 poorly armed goons would be a death sentence, even if these goons do happen to be self-proclaimed elite Goblin Commandos. So it's time to fund this little resistance movement, and what better place to raid for treasure than an ancient tomb?
We remembered an inviting tomb lies on the way to the gate. But what's this? Looks like the battle between those goblins and refugees didn't go so well. You know what this means? More free stuff! We loot the Blade of Frontiers and travel onward, only to find the tomb is already in the process of being tomb raided. Who do you think would win? A group of heavily armed, seasoned tomb raiders, or 2 little green guys? It was time to call for help. That's right, it was time to bring out our secret weapon, Mr. Snips!
Mr. Snips leads us to a hearty victory as we torch the last of the banditos. Poking around further in the Forgotten Tomb, we find ancient statues, moldy skeletons, and a big, shiny button, which Gumslappa immediately pushes. Little did we know that this button was the skeleton alarm clock. A bunch of bleached cadavers shake the sand out of their sleepy eye sockets and try to drag our little green buddies to the netherworld.
The battle rages on, with the crackle of spells and the thump of flying footwear filling the air. During the fight, Mr. Snips makes a final stand, throwing himself heroically in harm's way so that we might survive. We lose a dear friend, but gain a talkative mummy in his place. We promptly named the mummy Mr. Snips.
After mourning the loss of Mr. Snips and harvesting the tomb's riches, our weary warriors set about the task of fencing these precious artifacts to the lowest bidder. We make a shady back alley deal with this druid to trade in our loot for a pile of novelty arrows.
And thank you for beating back those goblins. Most brave of you.
After a quick rest, our commandos are geared up and ready for the next part of our mission. Job interviews.
The path to the Goblin Camp is a long one, and to make things more complicated, Gumslappa's selective amnesia kicks in and changes his skill set completely during his nap. He's not as handy with a hatchet anymore, but he learns to do, this. That'll come in handy on the long road ahead, especially if we run into any bloodthirsty glasses of warm lemonade.
Now fully armed and fully prepared, our pair of freedom fighters heads west toward the crumbling cathedral on a search for new recruits. Aw, dead guys, free snacks. Little did we know that the opportunity would come much sooner than we expected. Stepping into the remains of a rotting village, we found ourselves surrounded by a tribe of scouts.
Perfect. Our first interview candidates. Here's an interview question. How would you greet a potential client when they enter your business establishment?
You take one step further, and we'll fill your front with arrows. Or you turn around, and your backside gets the same treatment.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You're hired.
The recruitment drive continues as we head up towards the village windmill in search of the leaders of the scouting party, and with every step our merry band of misfits grows. Once we reach the apex of the village, we find ourselves face to face with the charismatic Fezerk, a friendly type of guy that lives to give amusement park rides to gnomes. He's like a jolly goblin carny, so naturally he has to come along with us.
I'd say the first round of interviews went quite well, wouldn't you?
I concur.
With all this extra help at our backs, we figured we could make a pretty strong case for a regime change over at the big old goblin camp to the west. So away we go, pushing and prodding our pile of plucky new recruits down that old dusty trail.
A lookout post looms into view, and here we see a familiar face. It's Saza, Gumslapper's new girlfriend. She made it! Saza explains all the details of her heroic rescue to the guard, sparing no detail whatsoever.
I've been in some druid's grove. This one sprang me. Now move over so I can tell Regslin myself.
And just like that, we're in.
Well, sort of. The moment we step our clawed feet onto the drawbridge, we get a massive migraine from the brain bugs. You remember the brain bugs, don't you? The purple, hazy, psychokinesis-giving Wazamahu. The Absolute enters our poor goblin's gray matter with the subtlety of a monster truck rally. But before we lose our minds entirely, the grumpy pod lady runs out with a magic Hellraiser Christmas ornament, farts out a red cloud, and rescues us. Grumpy Pod Lady refuses to give us the red glowy fart box as an early holiday gift, stating that she'll die to protect it.
It stays with me. I'll kill to protect it. Already have.
So we call her bluff, and the trinket jumps right into our pockets happily.
Oh, I got red fart all over my hands now. Finally, we can step inside and take a walk around the big goblin party. This place has everything. Vendors, chicken races, a bard to heckle, buckets of booze, and plenty of freshly grilled dwarf to go around. There's even some fine poetry.
Tumptuous, draw Regslin,
You broke him.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's just fine.
There's also plenty of opportunities to fill the rest of our positions, so we move forward to the next step in the interview process. First question, in your opinion, what is the best attribute you bring to the team?
My ass.
I don't know, what do you think, Saza?
If anyone wants a piss pot guarded, we'll call.
Yeah, it's true. Pisspot guards are in short supply, got long hours, not a lot of takers. Gumslappa and Glizbog stride through the front doors of the makeshift fortress and stop at the feet of a wizened old crone. True Soul Gut lightly toasts our hands like a marshmallow.
Hold still.
Taking this as a token of acceptance, we proudly stomp our little goblin booties through the rest of the sanctum and finish filling up our ranks. We witness a hobgoblin party where one of the former squid-faced captors is brought back to life, and find Gumslappa's new squeeze explaining herself to a super scary drow warrior.
The drow gives Saza a real earful since she failed to capture the grove on her own, but with a few slaps of the old gums, we managed to talk her out of making Saza into spider food. But that sultry look in the Night Warden Minthara's eyes says she might have a different prize on her mind.
Ooh.
A few more sweet nothings fall out of Glizbog's pie hole, and we convince the Night Warden to help us carve some new territory for the goblins by staging an ambush on the tieflings and druids of the grove.
Now our little warband was armed to the teeth, full of fire and fury and itching for a fight. A steely green wave ready to crash down the walls of the grove. With our new allies at our backs, there was no way we could fail. Eastward we marched.
When we arrived at the gate, some Zevlor guy pretended he knew us. That was weird.
Yeah, it was pretty weird.
Even weirder, he acted surprised when we flung the gates open to let our buddies inside.
Hells, you're with them, aren't you?
What did you think would happen there, Zevlor? A little toot on the big old jazz horn let everybody know that it was time for a goblin party. Thus began our great battle to liberate the lands out from under the heels of these dastardly hornheads and tree huggers, and usher in the age of the goblin.
One by one their leaders fell to goblin steel and goblin spell. The oppressors of grass and tree all resisted uselessly, and not a single one was saved against the mighty Goblin Wave.
Kaga, the druid's foul leader, ensorcelled Glizbog's flaming sword during the battle by casting heat metal on it, which somehow worked even though it was a sword already on fire.
It's already spicy. Oh, sorry.
Causing him to drop the blade at his feet. It seemed like this duel would spell Glizbog's end until he downed a handy haste potion, buying him enough time to grip the still-burning hilt and countering with a mighty swing that would knock Kaga senseless.
Meanwhile, Gumslappa prepared a stealthy assault on the rear guard, jumping from on high to catch them by surprise. Together, our commandos finished off the last of the druids and reclaimed the forests for goblin kind. And there were many ice blocks to celebrate.
With the land now cleared and the clan's territory secured, there was little to do except rejoice.
A glorious day. The Absolute will be pleased.
The spirits were high at camp that night as goblins raised toast after toast to their victory. Gumslappa gained the praise and adulation of the entire tribe for his skill and cunning.
You're twice as mean as any hobgoblin.
However, it seemed that Night Warden Minthara had other celebration plans. Late that night, after the fires were low and the camp went quiet, Minthara helped herself to a hot bowl of Glizbog.
God. So at the end of our long journey, our heroes emerged triumphant, managing to subvert an entire goblin clan, retake the lands, and toast to a fruitful victory.
Tribe!
They even get the girl.
Yeah! Who would have thought a lowly duo of goblin commandos could wield so much power? But the good news doesn't end there. You can mod Baldur's Gate 3 yourself to create your own goblin-y adventures. Here's how!
Today, we are going to show you how to create a goblin clan. This is also usable as just a baseline video to walk you through the process of getting Baldur's Gate 3 Mod Manager working. The first thing we're going to need to make a goblin clan, of course, is goblins. With this mod, Fantastical Multiverse, you can actually choose a goblin as your origin character. You'll also see here that there's a lot of other cool choices. You could roll around as a bunch of bugbears. You could become, orcs, Asamar, Minotaur. But what we're really interested in here today is the goblin. Fantastical Multiverse is a pretty complex mod. It has a couple dependencies that it needs. One of these is it needs the 5e spells mod, and you'll also need Baldur's Gate 3 mod fixer, and then you'll also need improved UI. So you'll actually need 2 files out of the improved UI page, and one of them is going to be improved UI, the base mod, and the second one will be improved UI assets. That allows for custom icons. The next thing you're going to need to make the Goblin Clan is we're going to need Party Limit Begone, and what this does is it raises the party cap from 4 to 16. This also can raise the multiplayer cap to 8. So there's some additional steps you can do to patch the Baldur's Gate 3 exec file and raise the party limit to 8 in multiplayer. So if you have a big group of friends and you all want to play co-op, this is the mod for you. The final thing we're going to need to fill out our Goblin Clan and fill in the ranks is the Recruit Any NPC mod. So what this gives you is it gives you 2 spells that it adds to your origin character. One of them is Add or Remove, and this allows you to add or remove any NPC to your party or remove them from your party. And the second one is Make, Clone, or Custom. And what that does is it allows the character to be cloned and create a custom origin character. But we're mainly going to be using this to fill in our ranks and recruit more goblins into our little goblin clan here. You'll need all these mods. You'll want to make sure you download these. In addition to that, you'll need 2 tools. First tool you're going to need is the Baldur's Gate 3 mod manager. The second one you're going to need is the script extender. And this allows you to run some of the more complex mods that change how the base game functions. So once you have all of these downloaded, all of these zip files, unpack them all into a folder. So I've already gone ahead and made a Baldur's Gate 3 mods folder here on my desktop. You want to take all these and unzip them to folders, and you'll see they're all unzipped now. And then what you'll want to do is head on into the Baldur's Gate 3 mod manager folder, and you'll see a exec file here called BG3 modmanager.exe. And you go ahead and open that up and run it. If there's a new version, go ahead and download that. It'll update automatically for you. So you'll see an interface that looks like this. What you want to do next is anything that's a pack file. For example, you see this is pack file, 5espells.pack. So you want to go ahead and import all your mods using the import option in the mod manager. Once you've imported all the pack files into Mod Manager, you'll see that there is 5e spells, Fantastical Hotfix, Fantastical Multiverse, Remove Multiplayer Character. This is the Recruit Any Character mod. It's just called Remove Multiplayer Character as the pack file here. And then you'll see some overrides down here. So you'll see Improved UI Assets, Improved UI, and Mod Fixer. So what you want to do is take all of these in the Inactive Mods column and drag them over here to the Active Mods column. So once you see that your left-hand column looks like this, you have your overrides, you have your mods, go ahead and hit File, Export Order to Game. Once that's done, you'll see a little note pop up saying Exported Load Order to wherever your mod is, and that will indicate that it was successful. The next thing we'll need to do is install the script extender and install the Party Limit Begone mod. These are a little different, so you actually have to go into your game folder here. The easiest way to get there is to straight up go into the Steam client, right-click Manage, and hit Browse Local Files, and it'll take you right to the game folder. You'll see that there is a folder named Bin and a folder named Data. So what we're going to do first is install the Baldur's Gate 3 script extender, and all that is a little DLL file called dwrite.dll. The dwrite.dll file just needs to be dragged into the bin folder, like so, and you'll see I have already done this, so make sure that it's in there, and you'll see dwrite.dll appear if you've done that properly. Then what you'll want to do is go back up to the main Baldur's Gate 3 game folder here, open the data folder, and this is where you'll want to drag the Party Limit Begone mod folder. There's a readme.txt that gives you instructions as well, but you'll take this mods folder, you just drag that into the data folder. And once you do that, you'll see it looks like this. You'll see a localization folder and a mods folder. If you want to increase the multiplayer limit, there's some additional instructions in here and a patcher where you'll need to drag the actual game exec files onto this Party Limit Begone patcher.bat file. And that will automatically patch your exec files in order to increase the multiplayer limit to 8. What we want to do now is test everything and make sure that it worked out okay. Alright, so here's how you test out the Party Limit Begone mod. Now, you note that I have 4 people already in my group, so what you need to actually do to test this mod is you need to dismiss 1 character. We'll make Karlach eat some dirt. That should reset the limit within the game. Then you go ahead and recruit 2 characters. Alright, and you'll see that we've got 5 characters, so we know that the party cat limit is now raised. So the next thing we need to do is test out the Recruit Any NPC mod. So we've got Mizora and we've got Duke Ravengard sitting here. Now you'll notice in your actions that some new options have appeared. There's add and remove, and there's make, clone, or custom. So we're going to see if we can add and remove Mizora. And what do you know? She's on our side. We got Mizora. Let's add Ravengard. Same thing, just hit add, boom. And what? We've got Ravengard on our side as well. And hey, look, I'm controlling Duke Ravengard. Or I can take Mizora out for a spin. And what? She's got spells. She's got spells. She's teleporting over here. What? Oh my god, Mizora, what are you even doing? So, we know that those mods all work. The last tricky one we need to check is to make sure we can make a goblin. Head to the main menu. We're going to hit New Game. And once you start a new game, you will of course be brought to the character generator. We have our origin characters, of course, but we click over on race. And what's this? We have all new options. So we have Orc, we have Asimar, we have Genasi. What? Bugbear doesn't seem to work right. Now, some of these don't all work properly, and it's because there's another dependent mod that improves the bodies that currently isn't supported due to patch number 9 coming out earlier this month. But in the future, I'm pretty sure that this will work perfectly once again. But what we really want to see is Goblin. And the goblins are actually pretty well featured. They even have race features, like in the 5e book, where you get Fury of the Small and Nimble Escape. And you can even alter your goblins a little bit. Even, like, randomize your guys. So yeah, if you want weird goblin Hysterian Clown, or, yeah, this guy looks good. You can make your goblin commandos, you can go on through, and you can recruit all the goblins that you can hold, and dismiss them at any time. Have fun with your goblin journey, and thanks for sticking around to watch this mod video. Well, there you have it, a dive into the deep end of Baldur's Gate 3 modding. We hope you enjoyed this little adventure and maybe even found it useful for your own games. If you did, there's a few ways that you can thank us. Support our channel directly by subscribing to our Patreon, becoming a channel member, or tipping us on Ko-Fi. The lowest level is just $2 measly a month, and any donation will get your name in the credits, like these kind folks here.
If you can't find that amount of change in your couch, we get it. But you can still contribute if you like, subscribe, comment, and share these videos around the World Wide Web. You know, all the fun algorithm stuff. Yes, it's cheesy and we don't like to talk about it, but it really, really does help us a lot.
Once again, thank you so much for watching, and an extra special thanks for the recent outpouring of positive feedback. It makes our days a little bit brighter. Stay strong, my fellow goblins, and we'll see you on the next
Two-Headed Hero.